Hi guys, my name is Darlington and I'm here to talk about my mental health regards the jobs that I do in relation to community work. Now, primarily I'm a creative analyst, so I'm a creative, I work in creative media, I work in communication, and what part of my job is to interact with so many different people on a daily basis, especially young people that I interact with almost every single day. And I'm here to talk about how I handle my mental health regards my work and the pressure that comes along with doing what I do. So most of the time, working in creative media can be very challenging. It pushes you to the edge, and every single day you have to work up with different kinds of ideas and how to communicate to the different kinds of people that you interact with. And personally, for me, working in creative media over the past 5 years, I would say has been very, very challenging and very, very stressful because you're always on the edge of your toes. Every single morning you wake up, there's always kind of a new idea to explore. There's always kind of new boundaries to push. There's people out there who want to be entertained, want to be communicated to effectively. So it's my job to think about those ideas, think about those different concepts, not to communicate something from your mind into reality. So oftentimes over the years, I've gone through anxiety, I've gone through panic attacks, and sometimes there's been a mental breakdown in regards to what I do. If you don't meet a deadline, sometimes you feel very isolated. Sometimes can be feeling very isolated. You can feel very alone, and you can get into that anxious space. I'm a perfectionist. I like to do what I do, and most of the times I want it to be perfect. So most of the times when some of the ideas that we come up with are not going exactly to what I thought it would be going, like I have an anxiety attack, I get anxious, and sometimes I shut down, which is very bad for my mental health. But hopefully, as we talk about my mental health, I can encourage you. I'm going to share with you guys my tips that I have on how to deal with my mental health and how also it can help you from a practical perspective, of course. Number one, what I do sometimes to watch my mental health is, number one, I always find a day when I'm away from everything. I shut down. I turn off my phones, I turn off my TV, I turn off everything. I go somewhere else and I sit down for like 4 hours in a day and just kind of re-energize myself. And you see this in the Bible actually with Jesus. Most of the times the Bible will tell you that Jesus oftentimes withdrew to himself to pray. That kind of indicates to you the fact that Jesus also was aware of his mental status, because sometimes Jesus was a communicator, man. He used to go around meeting different kinds of people, hundreds of people, crowds are always around him. And interesting enough, he always had a day when he used to withdraw from people to kind of recharge and pray. So that's what I do. Number one, I withdraw from everything. I go out there, I sit down, it's 4 hours, 5 hours, I shut down, I take a pen and a paper, I take my journal, and I write things down. And I write things down that kind of, sometimes things that are making me anxious, things that make me worry, and I just kind of sit down and look at things from a different perspective. Number two, I pray about it. The Bible says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything make your petitions known to God. So number two, I pray about it. I sit down, I find friends that I pray with. Sometimes I text my mentors, my pastors, would you mind praying with me for this? Because anxiety comes from the thoughts that you have. You're anxious about this, you're anxious about your exams, you're anxious that girl is going to accept you, you're anxious about your breakup, you're anxious about going into university, and you can get so overwhelming. Sometimes it can cause a mental shutdown. So number two, pray about it. I pray about it. Number three, I find people who make me laugh. It might seem a bit cliche to say that, but sometimes what I do when I'm going through a mental situation, I find people where I go to and I have it, because I know they're funny, and sometimes they'll make fun at me or make fun at them, crack jokes, we'll laugh about it, because a joyful heart makes a cheerful face. So I find people that I laugh with, I joke around with, and they just kind of bring me back to reality. And number four, I guess it's one of the most important things that I do. I take a long walk. Like I said, it's very practical. Jesus used to walk back in his days. I take very, very long walks. Sometimes I'll walk from home all the way to work and to think through things. So some of the practical things that I do to watch my mental state, my mental health.